Hello and welcome to our video today. We're going to look at learn to versus learn how to. So first, some examples. I'm learning to play the guitar. I'm learning how to play the guitar. There's no difference in meaning between these two sentences. Some people would say that how to suggests more detailed learning, but I don't believe that many people who use it would recognize any difference. But there are some differences in when you would use them. So for hands-on practical skills, you would tend to use how to. For example, I have learned how to make a Karen shirt. You're a lot less likely to say, I have learned to make a Karen shirt. Where the thing you are learning is not a practical skill, like a pattern of behavior. So you could say, I have learned to expect my mother to visit me on Saturday afternoon. You could not say, I have learned how to expect my mother to visit me on Saturday afternoon. Where the thing you are learning is not how, but a different WH word, then obviously you don't use how. So if you are saying, I have learned when, or I've learned why, or I've learned where, or I've learned who, or I've learned whether it was Tom or Jerry, you're not going to use how. There is a difference between I know to come when my mother calls and I know how to come when my mother calls. I know to come when my mother calls means I know that I should come when my mother calls. It's my duty. I know how to come when my mother calls means I know how to get from here to where my mother is. I need to walk. Now let's look at the negative. I have not learned to versus I have learned not to. So here's some examples. I have not learned to speak Chinese. This means I have not learned it. Next one, I have learned not to get upset when I leave home. This means I have learned something, but it is a negative something. It's how to avoid doing something. So in the first example with the Chinese, you didn't learn anything. The second example, you did learn something, but it was how not to do something. Another way to think about this is that they answer slightly different questions. I have not learned to speak Chinese means I don't know how. I have learned not to get upset when I leave home means I have learned when not to get upset. I have learned not to get upset when I leave home versus I have learned to not get upset when I leave home. These both mean exactly the same and they're both good English. In the last situation, only learn to works. For example, I have learned not to argue with the boss. You would not say, I have learned how to not argue with the boss. Okay, your turn. Correct or not correct? I've learned how not to discuss politics with my sister. Correct or not correct? And the answer, not correct. You should not put how in there. It should be, I have learned not to discuss politics with my sister. Next one, I learned how to call the police if I'm in trouble. Which one does this mean? I learned that I should call the police, or I learned how to dial the police number on my phone. And the answer for that one, I learned how to dial the police number on my phone. I learned how to do it, not when to do it or why to do it. I have learned how to play cane ball. How, or know how, or it doesn't matter. And the answer, it doesn't matter. You can say, I have learned how to play cane ball, or I've learned to play cane ball. Next one. When I was young, I learned to know when my brother was pretending to cry. So how, or know how, or it doesn't matter. And the answer, know how, because we have a WH word, when, in there. Last summer, I learned how to swim. How, or know how, or it doesn't matter. And the answer, it doesn't matter. You can say, last summer I learned how to swim, or last summer I learned to swim. Both are okay. I learned to call the police if I'm in trouble. Which one does this mean? I learned that I should call the police, or I learned how to dial the police number on my phone. And the answer, I learned that I should call the police. And this is the end, my friends. See you next time.